You know that saying, you can't out-exercise a bad diet? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like when it really comes down to it, is what we eat or how much we move? Which one's more critical for our overall health?
Right.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're kind of digging into that exact question, looking at the roles, the intertwined roles of diet and exercise in hitting goals like, weight loss, better heart health.
And we've looked at some really fascinating expert-reviewed information to try and get a clearer picture for you.
Yeah, definitely.
What's interesting, I think, right away is that this isn't really about picking a winner, is it?
No, not at all.
It's more about understanding what each one brings to the table, diet and exercise, and maybe more importantly, how you can get them working together in a way that, fits your life.
Finding that synergy.
Exactly. We're aiming for those aha moments, maybe, and some practical stuff you can actually use.
Okay, so let's jump right into weight loss. It's a goal for a lot of people. And the basic idea, most of us know this, is creating a calorie deficit. You got to burn more energy than you take in.
Super principle, yeah.
And both diet and exercise play a part here, obviously. But their impact can feel, pretty different sometimes.
Precisely. And one thing you notice straight off is just how efficiently you can create that deficit just by changing what you eat.
Right.
That's often why you hear that 80-20 idea, where diet gets seen as like 80% of the weight loss battle.
Yeah, and it really hits home when you look at actual examples. Like, take a venti green tea frappuccino from Starbucks. That's packing what, around 520 calories?
Quite a bit.
Okay, now, to burn roughly that same amount, someone who weighs about 154 pounds would need to cycle, like at a decent pace for a whole hour.
For a whole hour, yeah.
Suddenly just picking a different drink seems a lot faster,
Yeah.
A much quicker way to get that deficit than a really intense workout.
That's a great way to put it. And if you look bigger picture, focusing on whole foods, things that are minimally processed, stuff high in fiber, protein, healthy fats.
Yeah.
That can be a really effective strategy for just managing your calorie intake without having to count every single thing.
Because those foods keep you fuller.
Exactly. They tend to keep you feeling satisfied longer, which can really help stop you from overeating later.
Okay, but let's not, sell exercise short when it comes to weight loss either. Strength training, for example. That's so valuable. It helps build and, crucially, preserve lean muscle mass.
And that's key.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Having more muscle tissue actually speeds up your resting metabolic rate.
Right.
So you're burning more calories even when you're just, sitting around.
And that effect, that higher calorie burn, it can actually stick around for quite a while after a good strength session, sometimes up to 72 hours.
That's the EPOC effect, right? Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption.
That's the one. And then, of course, you've got aerobic exercise, things like a brisk walk, a jog, cycling. Especially if you keep it going at a low to moderate intensity for, say, over 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That directly burns calories while you're doing it, so it's adding straight to that deficit.
Now, there's another layer with exercise, too, isn't there? It can potentially influence our hunger hormones.
Ah, yes. That's an interesting area. The idea is that regular activity might help regulate signals like ghrelin and leptin, which, manage appetite.
But there's a but, right?
Yeah. It's also true that sometimes really intense or maybe excessive exercise can actually increase appetite for some people.
Okay.
And of course, there's always the risk of injury if you push too hard. So finding that balance, that sweet spot, is really important.
Right, finding what works for you.
And this kind of brings up a point about flexibility. Because exercise does help you burn extra calories, and it can boost your metabolism. It can give you a bit more wiggle room in your food choices.
Makes sense. Makes it less restrictive, maybe.
Exactly. Which can be really crucial for sticking with something long-term. And another big one, exercise plays a really significant role in maintaining weight after you've lost it.
Oh, that's huge. Because keeping it off is often the hardest part, right?
It really can be, yeah.
Okay, but it's also super important to remember that health is way more than just the number on the scale.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is where exercise really seems to shine, often with benefits that aren't, directly tied to losing pounds.
Couldn't agree more. There's really compelling evidence showing that just improving your cardiovascular fitness, becoming more physically active overall, that can significantly improve a whole range of health markers.
Regardless of weight loss.
Regardless of whether you see a big change on the scale, yeah, We're talking improvements right down at the cellular level, better levels of HDL cholesterol, that's the good kind.
Right.
Reduced stiffness in your arteries, healthier levels of fats in your blood, even positive effects on brain health.
Wow. Those are pretty substantial benefits.
Huge wins. And they're not solely dependent on losing weight.
So considering all that, what's the sort of recommendation then for weight loss specifically? What's the takeaway?
Well, if you look at the whole picture, the most effective path, and usually the most sustainable one, for weight loss seems to be a combination.
Right, makes sense.
A combination of mindful changes to your diet and regular exercise. That 80-20 rule we mentioned, it's a helpful guideline, maybe, but the exact balance can really vary from person to person. It depends on preferences, lifestyle.
And the research, it really supports that combined approach, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's older research, for example, that showed combining even just modest calorie restriction with exercise led to significantly more weight loss. Sometimes, like, up to 5 times more than just exercise alone.
5 times? Wow.
Yeah. And more recently, a 2023 systematic review looked at adults with obesity. It found the best results came from combining both strength training and endurance exercise, aiming for at least 175 minutes a week, along with a personalized diet plan focused on that calorie deficit.
So it really sounds like diet and exercise aren't, fighting each other. They're more like powerful allies.
Exactly. Working together for healthy, sustainable weight loss and management.
So that's weight loss. Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about another really critical part of our wellness. Heart health.
Yes, definitely crucial.
And again, it seems like both what we eat and how active we are play massive roles in it.
Undeniable roles, yeah. When we talk heart health, the foods we eat consistently can either be a really strong protector or, well, a significant risk factor.
Right.
So dietary patterns that are consistently linked with a lower risk of heart disease, they tend to prioritize those minimally processed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, lean proteins.
And lower sodium. Right?
Sodium, relatively low, yes.
Think about something like the Mediterranean diet. That's a classic example, isn't it?
It really is. It's rich in those good unsaturated fats from things like olive oil, fatty fish, nuts, plus tons of fiber from whole grains and veggies and lots of antioxidants. And because it's based on fresh, whole foods, it naturally tends to be lower in things like saturated fats and added sugars, which aren't so great for the heart.
And there are other patterns too, like the DSH diet.
Right. DSH, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It's another evidence-based approach. Again, emphasizes those minimally processed whole foods, veggies, fruits, whole grains. But it has a specific focus on cutting down sodium while boosting potassium and fiber.
Okay. And on the other side of the coin, we know that diets high in certain things aren't great.
Definitely. Diets high in saturated fats, lots of sodium, added sugars, refined carbs. You often find those in processed meats, red meat, sugary drinks, baked goods, those ultra-processed snacks.
Yeah, the easy stuff sometimes.
Unfortunately, yeah. And those are definitely associated with a higher risk of developing heart disease.
Okay, so diet's clearly huge. What about the role of exercise then, specifically for keeping our hearts healthy?
Well, the good news is there's just a wealth of research showing a really strong positive connection. Regular physical activity can lower your overall risk of heart disease. It can help decrease both blood pressure and LDL cholesterol.
That's the bad cholesterol.
That's the one often called bad cholesterol, yeah. Exercise can also strengthen your actual heart muscle, potentially making it pump more efficiently. And it significantly improves your cardiorespiratory fitness.
Which is basically how well your heart and lungs deliver oxygen.
Exactly, how well they deliver oxygen to your body during sustained activity. It's a key measure of heart health.
And similar to what we talked about with weight, these heart benefits from exercise can happen even if your weight doesn't really change much.
Precisely. Those heart protective effects can occur independently of significant weight loss.
How does that work? Like, how does cardio help the heart muscle?
Well, moderate to high-intensity cardio workouts essentially challenge your heart, making it stronger over time. A stronger heart can pump more blood with each beat.
Ah, okay. Less strain.
Less strain overall on your heart and arteries, yeah. Which directly contributes to lowering that risk of heart disease. Plus, exercise plays a vital role in cutting the risk of type 2 diabetes.
Which is a big risk factor for heart disease itself.
A major risk factor, yes. Exercise helps by improving your body's sensitivity to insulin and helping control blood sugar levels.
So what kind of exercise levels are we talking about here? What are the general recommendations for heart health?
The general guidelines usually suggest aiming for about 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week.
Like brisk walking.
Like brisk walking, yeah. Or you could do about 75 minutes of higher intensity exercise, like running, or, some combination of the two.
Yeah.
And importantly, even lower intensity stuff counts. Just consistently getting more walking into your day can offer real benefits for your health.
And I guess the usual caveat applies.
Always, if you have any pre-existing heart conditions, it's absolutely essential to talk to your doctor before starting any new exercise program.
Right. So the message for heart health seems pretty clear too then.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the big picture, combining a heart-healthy, nutritious diet with regular physical activity is probably one of the most impactful things you can do to lower your risk.
And other lifestyle factors matter too.
Oh, for sure. Things like not smoking, moderating alcohol, maintaining a healthy weight, managing stress, they all play a part in keeping your cardiovascular system healthy.
So to kind of wrap up this section, it really seems like a diet built around those minimally processed whole foods goes hand in hand with a stronger heart.
Definitely.
And regular exercise is like a crucial partner in tackling those key risk factors for heart disease.
Well said. Okay, so let's broaden out again. Let's explore some other interesting areas where both diet and exercise really make a difference.
All right, where should we start?
How about building muscle? This is an area where you absolutely need both nutrition and physical activity. They're indispensable.
Right.
To actually increase your muscle mass, you need two things. First, resistance training. That's any exercise that challenges your muscles, like lifting weights, using resistance bands.
Right, and you need to apply that principle of progressive overload we mentioned earlier.
Okay, remind us what progressive overload is again.
It just means gradually increasing the demand on your muscles over time. So maybe lifting slightly heavier weights, or doing a few more reps, or adding another set. You keep challenging them.
Got it. And the second thing needed?
The second thing is adequate protein intake through your diet.
Ah, the diet connection.
Exactly. And here's the critical link. You won't build significant muscle just by eating tons of protein if you're not actually challenging those muscles with resistance training.
Makes sense. You need the stimulus.
You need the stimulus. But conversely, if you're working out consistently but you're not eating enough protein, your body just doesn't have the building blocks it needs to repair and grow those muscle fibers.
So it's genuinely a two-part equation. You need both.
Absolutely crucial to have both for muscle development. All the protein shakes in the world won't do it on their own. Right. Okay, now let's shift to something that's getting a lot more attention lately, thankfully. Our mental health and how it connects to our physical well-being.
Yes, a really important connection. And what's interesting here is the growing amount of research highlighting a strong link between a nutritious diet and improved mental well-being.
What kind of diet are we talking about?
Generally, one that includes plenty of healthy fats, good sources of fiber, probiotics, those beneficial gut bacteria, and just a wide variety of fruits and vegetables.
And this is linked to better mental health.
Yeah, we're seeing correlations with improved well-being and even a lower risk of experiencing things like anxiety and depression.
And there are specific nutrients involved too, right? Like deficiencies can be a problem.
That's right. It's worth noting that lower levels of certain nutrients, things like zinc, vitamin D, vitamin B12, those omega-3 fatty acids they have been associated with, potentially worsening mental health symptoms.
Okay, so diet matters for the mind. What about exercise?
Oh, exercise plays a huge role here too. It offers both immediate benefits and longer-term ones.
Like the runner's high.
Sort of, yeah. When we exercise, our bodies release those well-known mood boosters, endorphins, yes, but also neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. And that can lead to a temporary lift in mood, help manage stress right in the moment.
And the long-term effects.
Well, beyond that immediate feeling, regular exercise is consistently linked with lower rates of more chronic mental health challenges. Things like moderate depression, anxiety disorders, other similar conditions.
Some studies even suggest it can be as effective as medication sometimes for milder cases.
Yes, some studies have suggested that, particularly for mild to moderate depression, exercise can be a really powerful intervention, sometimes comparable to certain therapies or medications.
But it's not a replacement for professional help, right?
Absolutely not. That's a really important point. While diet and exercise can be incredibly beneficial for supporting mental well-being, they should always be seen as valuable complements to professional health care. They're powerful tools, but part of a bigger picture if someone is struggling.
Right. Good distinction. So looking across the board then, whether it's building physical strength or, bolstering our mental state. It really seems like both diet and exercise are, well, pulling their weight.
Absolutely. They really are fundamental pillars for optimal health, aren't they?
Yeah.
Getting that calorie deficit through mindful eating, that's crucial for weight management, sure. But exercise is what helps us maintain those results, and it provides that huge array of other benefits that go way beyond the scale.
And like we've discussed, both really contribute significantly to reducing heart disease risk, building and keeping muscle, and positively impacting our mental health.
So the recommendation really boils down to embracing a diet that's rich in those minimally processed whole foods, getting plenty of healthy fats, fiber, lean protein, and at the same time, trying to weave in at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise into your week.
It's so tempting to try and declare one the winner, diet or exercise.
I know, people love a clear winner.
But the reality just seems to be that they work together. It's a synergy. Each one enhances the benefits of the other.
Exactly. They work together to optimize our overall health, our quality of life.
So what's the actionable takeaway here? If someone's listening and feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed.
That's a great question. What's really empowering, I think, is knowing that even small, consistent changes can make a huge difference over time.
Start small.
Yeah, start small. So if you're feeling unsure where to begin, here's just one thing you could try. Identify one small, genuinely realistic change you can make to your diet and one small, manageable addition to your exercise routine.
Just one of each.
Just one of each to start. Commit to those for maybe a few weeks, maybe a month, see how it feels. Then you can gradually build on them.
Writing them down might help.
Oh, definitely. Writing down your chosen changes can be a great way to keep yourself accountable. And over time, those little adjustments, they really add up. They accumulate to create a real impact.
Can you give some examples? Like, what are some small diet changes people could try?
Sure. For diet, maybe it's aiming to get a serving of vegetables with each main meal, or trying to eat, say, 3 different colors of fruits and vegetables each day.
Interesting.
Or maybe incorporating a plant-based protein like beans or lentils twice a week, or swapping a processed snack for a piece of fruit. Even just being more mindful about alcohol intake, or choosing whole grain bread instead of white. Small things.
Okay, and for exercise?
Yeah.
Small, sustainable changes.
For exercise, it could be something like fitting in 3 15-minute walks during the week, or using just 10 minutes of your lunch break for some stretching or a quick walk around the block.
Manageable stuff.
Totally. Or maybe scheduling 2 gym sessions or jogs each week, if that's feasible. Finding a short online yoga or bodyweight routine you can do a few times a week. Maybe joining a fun sports club, or just committing to a longer walk with a friend once a week.
The key is finding something you actually enjoy, right?
Correct.
So you'll stick with it.
Exactly. Consistency is far more important than intensity, especially when you're starting out. Find activities you like and can realistically build into your life.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, the main message seems both diet and exercise are just essential.
Yeah.
Absolutely essential components of good health.
Couldn't have said it better. They each offer their own unique set of benefits, and often those benefits overlap and even amplify each other.
So instead of thinking of them as like competing priorities,
Right.
it's more about seeing how interconnected they are and working towards a balance that actually suits you, your needs, your lifestyle.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, listener,
Okay.
to consider. What is one small, truly sustainable change you could realistically start making in your diet, maybe even today? And what is one small, sustainable change you could make to how active you are?
Just one of each again.
Just one of each. And just reflect on how those seemingly tiny steps done consistently over time could add up, how they could contribute to a really significant improvement in your overall well-being down the line.
It's that compounding effect, right?
Yeah.
Small efforts adding up.
Exactly. It can be incredibly powerful.
So take that thought with you. Here's to finding your own healthy balance, one small, manageable step at a time.